All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this special episode of the Cold Country Podcast, where we discuss everything WVU sports. I am your host, Ian McIntyre, and as you can tell, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. Tyler and Matt are not with me, but they will be with me for the next episode. I just wanted to go ahead and hop on here and give you my predictions and my thoughts about the upcoming Ohio Bobcats game for Mountaineers in week 2. Before I hop into it, make sure to like and subscribe our YouTube, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go ahead and comment down below. What are your thoughts on the Ohio game? Is this a trap game? I'll give my thoughts on that later. But do you think that if this is a trap game, let us know. How do you think Ohio's going to do? How do you think we're going to do? Leave all your thoughts down below. Follow our socials, follow our Instagram and our X, and don't forget about our Spotify. If you want to listen to us on the go, I put all of our videos on Spotify, so make sure to give that a follow as well. All right, let's go ahead and hop into it. So, the Mountaineers in week 2 are going on the road to Athens, Ohio to face the Ohio Bobcats. WVU is currently favored by 3.5 points. If you're a betting person, kickoff is at 4 p.m. local time. So this is going to be one of your more interesting games for the week 2 slate. I think there's only one top 25 matchup, 2 teams in the top 25 going against each other. There's only one of those this week. So not a great slate, but I'll tell you, this is going to be one of your more interesting games. And first of all, I want to talk about the question that everybody has that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Is this a trap game for WVU? I'll go ahead and give you my answer right now. I say it is not a trap game. And there are many reasons for that. First of all, we want to discuss the obvious. Reason number one, people think this is a trap game is because of the week 1 game against Rutgers when Ohio went to Rutgers and only lost by 3. Final score was 34-31. I'm sure a lot of you Mountaineer fans already know that. You look at the box score for that game. The first player that comes to your attention, I'm sure, is Parker Navarro. And anyone who's a fan of the Bobcats and anyone who knows ball knows that Parker Navarro is legit. Against Rutgers, Parker Navarro went 21 for 31 through the air for 239 yards and 3 touchdowns. So super efficient game for Parker against Rutgers. And also, if you look at the team's rushing stats, he led the team in rushing as well. 9 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. So we can all agree that Parker Navarro is that dude and probably the main reason why Ohio won the MAC last year. Another guy to look out for on Ohio's team is Bangura. I'm not sure how to pronounce his first name, but Bangura is also a solid running back. Running back 1 for Ohio, had 86 yards against Rutgers. Receiving wise for Ohio, you got Chase Hendricks. It's their wide receiver 1, had 115 yards against Rutgers as well. Didn't net a touchdown, but netted 9 receptions and an average of 13 yards per catch. So they are going to be a difficult team to deal with for a lot of guys in college football. So that's going to be the focal point for our defense. Reason number 2 that people think this is a trap game is that Rutgers is a Power 4 school, not only a Power 4 school, but they are in the Big Ten, who is thought to be right behind the SEC in conference power rankings. A lot of people equate Rutgers to WVU, actually. And as much as we like Rutgers on this channel, as much as we shout them out for fun, I just do not see us and Rutgers on the same level. Even with as new as our team is and the returning production that Rutgers brought back from last year, I don't think that they're necessarily comparable. So people think that because Rutgers is sort of lower tier in the Big Ten, and we're sort of mid tier in the Big 12, that may make Rutgers look better. I disagree with that. I think we have better players than Rutgers at most positions. PFF rankings would tend to agree with me. And on that note of the PFF, we have better grades at nearly all positions against Ohio as well. So that is definitely something to look at. For those reasons, I think that the Ohio game should not be a trap game, as Rich Rod said in his last press conference. Trap game, that's ridiculous. And I would tend to agree with him. I think that a lot of people are overlooking this game. I'm not going to lie, I had it circled on the schedule from a few weeks ago when we were just getting ready to start. I figured Ohio would be a tough opponent, and a lot of people had this upcoming game circled as well, especially Parker Navarro, because of Parker Navarro. But I think that we also have to remind ourselves that this is a Big 12 team going up against a MAC team. If we remind ourselves of that, we can sort of put everything back into perspective, which I think is important for WVU fans right now, not to get too far ahead of ourselves and think that we're going to lose this game. I don't think we're going to lose this game. Could I see us being not as disciplined? Yes, because we had these issues against Robert Morris, which I'll allude to in a few minutes. Could I see us making mistakes? For sure. Could I see Nico throwing an interception? Yeah, I could. Do I see us fumbling as much? No, I don't. I don't think we're going to have nearly as bad of a game fumbling the ball as we did against Robert Morris. So I don't think that's necessarily going to be an issue for us against Ohio. And one thing, I watched the highlight reel of the Rutgers and Ohio game. There are two standout things that I took away from that highlight reel. Number one, Rutgers had that game in the first half. If they didn't lose it in the second half like they did, they could have easily won that game by 3 touchdowns. It looked that impressive in the first half. And looked like Rutgers could have easily had that game. They had some issues in the second half that I don't think the Mountaineers are going to make, especially after week 1. So, with all that said, I don't think that this is a trap game. However, Ohio is extremely competitive. I'm not undermining Ohio whatsoever, but it's Big 12 and MAC. And I think there's a clear talent discrepancy. And that brings me to my keys of the game, because Ohio is not going to be an easy step over. I think we win, but it's not going to be necessarily an easy game. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game, especially early on. First quarter, I don't think it's going to be a pretty game to watch, because my first key to the game is our rushing attack. Going back and looking at our box score from the Robert Morris game, if I scroll down to rushing, Shaheem White, everyone says our best player. I love Shaheem White. He had 18 carries for 93 yards against Robert Morris, and that was probably not as much as people were expecting going into week 1. I had an average of 5 yards a carry. He did have 2 touchdowns. That's very Jaheim-esque, and I think he has the potential to do the same thing. Against Ohio tomorrow. However, I think that he needs to be more efficient on the ground. Sincere Bowers as well is going to be key to our rushing attack. I think you're going to see him as well tomorrow, especially if we go up early, and you're going to see some guys off the bench. You're going to see Sincere Bowers come in and get some significant playing time, and I think he may be our running back too for the rest of the season. Those guys are going to be key to our rushing attack. Another part of the team that's going to be key to our rushing attack is that offensive line. I think a lot of us can agree that our offensive line was the most questionable part of our team in the week 1 win against Robert Morris. He had 9 penalties for 69 yards, and a lot of those came from the offensive line. We just weren't being disciplined. And Coach Rich Rod said as much. He said that that's something we got to fix immediately. And I think with his mentality and the way that he has coached his teams in the past and the way that I think he's going to be coaching our team now, that those mental errors are going to disappear for the most part. We are going to be more disciplined and not have as many costly penalties like that. Because if you make those type of penalties against Ohio, that could throw the game in the balance. It really could. Against Robert Morris, that's when you want to be making those mistakes. Like I said in our last episode, if you're going to be making those mistakes, that's when you want to be making them. You don't want to be making them against a team like Ohio, number one. Number two, we weren't as dominant in the trenches on the offensive line as I thought we were going to be and as I think we could be. This Ohio game is going to be another chance for this offensive line to mesh better and try to get more push off the offensive line and try to improve that run game. Again, it's worth noting, besides Walter Youngbear, the rest of our offensive line hasn't had that much starting P4 experience, Power 4 experience. So this is another game for them to get used to each other, and I think they have the potential to be fantastic. Again, it's about limiting those penalties and being more dominant in the trenches, and I think that's going to lead to our running game being better in this game, at least hopefully better. And guess what that is going to do? If we're more dominant on the line and we get better runs, that's going to open up deep passes for Nico to be able to make. You want to talk about Nico in the Robert Morris game? 17 for 20. Very efficient passing the ball, 85% clip. Completion rate, 85%. You want a quarterback that's going to be able to make quick decisions like he did against Robert Morris. And I think those quick decisions are going to be even more needed, even more necessary against Ohio. Because another thing that I noticed from the Rutgers, Ohio highlight mixtape was that Ohio's secondary had a lot of issues defending this Rutgers team, especially from deep. I'm looking at Rutgers quarterback. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name. I know I'll butcher it. But anyway, he was 18 for 23 through the air, only had 5 incompletions, 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, not quite as good of a game as Parker Navarro, but Ohio had some issues defending the pass. Rutgers had 2 receivers over 70 yards over 70 yards catching. They still had a receiver for 50 yards as well. They had 3 receivers over 50 yards receiving, which is fantastic. Ian Strong was their leading receiver, 7 receptions for 100 yards. So when you take into consideration, we have guys like Cam Vaughn, who had a terrific game against Robert Morris. We have Jaden Bray. We have Rodney Gallagher. And it's going to be hard for Ohio to contain those guys. And if we can get the running game going, that passing game is going to open up even more. So running game is number 1. Number 2 is focusing on Parker Navarro on the defensive side of the ball. So again, I'll just read out Navarro's stats once more. 239 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns through the air. And he had a rushing touchdown, 93 yards on the ground. He's very, very dynamic. And we need to be able to key on him as a defense and take away a lot of his passing opportunities. In my opinion, as good as he was on the ground against Rutgers, I would rather make Parker Navarro become a running quarterback than a passing quarterback. I think that our linebackers and our D linemen are the strongest part of our defense so far. So you want to be able to force Navarro to have to deal with those guys rather than deal with our secondary. Although I think our secondary is much, much improved from last year, and they looked a lot better against Robert Morris. We still did allow a few explosive plays through the air that shouldn't have happened in the Robert Morris game. So you want to be able to push Ohio's offense into the areas of the field where we have the advantage on defense. And I think forcing Navarro to run more often than he would like is going to be huge for this team. And like I said, their receivers are still solid and very good in the MAC conference. So taking away some receiver ability is going to be of utmost importance, and taking away Navarro's throwing ability, because the dude's got an arm. I would rather see him run. And I believe in our guys on defense. I mean, not even just on the line, but looking at some of our guys on defense who had a heck of a game against Robert Morris. Chase Wilson, Fred Perry, Reed Carrico, Hammond Russell, Ben Cutter, Israel Boyce, Braden Siders. Those are going to be your key guys against Ohio. I'm sure I missed a few guys in there, but those guys I think are going to be able to take care of business against Ohio. And as long as we can limit Parker Navarro through the air, I think we stand a much, much better chance of coming out of Ohio with a W, and not just a W, but a big W. So again, spread is 3.5. I think it should be a lot more, considering everything that I just talked about, all the points I gave. I think that Mountaineers win this by 2 scores. I think Mountaineers win this by at least 2 scores. And with the amount of WVU fans that are going to Athens, again, from Morgantown, it's only a 3.5-hour drive, 4-hour drive. There are going to be a lot of Mountaineer fans showing out to Athens, and I think we're going to be trying to make that as much of a home environment for us as possible. And I look forward to watching it on TV and seeing the amount of West Virginia fans there, because I think that is going to play a role. That's going to play a role in the game, is having all of our fans there. So those are my thoughts on the Ohio game. Relatively quick video. I just wanted to share my thoughts. Let me know what you think of my thoughts. Again, comment on this video. Let me know everything you think. Subscribe to YouTube. Once again, follow Instagram. Follow our X account. Tyler does a terrific job with the X. And yeah, we'll be on Spotify. But follow all of our socials, and that is going to do it for me. So I will have Tyler and Matt back with me next time. From Ian, see you on the next episode.